All right, everybody, welcome to the Customer Engagement Lab. I'm not excited to be here, nor is my co-host, Patrick Downs.
Speak for yourself, Travis. I'm very excited to be here today.
It's just another February in the year of 2021. February, Jesus, another Friday. We got the kinks out. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. In the world of marketing, I'm often tasked with helping to come up with ideas to engage people who have shown some interest in our product or offerings. And so that can be nurture emails, right? We send them down a drip. Maybe they downloaded a piece of content. Maybe they attended a webinar, whatever it may be. And David Kirkdorfer on LinkedIn, so he gets a lot of emails from marketing systems, some of them from individual reps, but he rarely feels nurtured. Instead, he feels badgered. And so he is laying out what would grab his attention. And he thinks the first thing is to be educated. He wants you to share some interesting data or maybe a use case and help him learn about his category more broadly. Don't pitch me your solution so directly. Number 2, be entertained. Make me laugh. Leave with a smile. Humor can be used to shine light on a problem. Make me feel warmly that your brand is a brand that I would like to do business with. And then number 3, being understood. One-size-fits-all emails don't target me. You should seek to uncover my context and situation better. We've talked about this on previous episodes. And I think those are all really good tips for how to nurture. I'm trying to think about when I got my last nurture email. And I want to give a shout out to a product that you actually turned me on to. They have incredible nurture emails and some of the best I've seen from Zubtitle.
Oh, I love Zubtitle.
Zubtitle,
Great
for those
company.
of you who aren't aware, is a great, simple tool. That it's like there are lots of tools that try to be similar to Zubtitle, where you can put subtitles on videos. You probably see these on LinkedIn all the time. But it's really just like an awesome use case of nurture emails where they were showing me they were doing all of this. And they weren't trying to be too cheeky. They weren't trying to be too outlandish. And they were really just educating you on how to create the best videos possible. And I think James Carberry does a good job with his nurture emails through Sweetfish of just educating you on how to be a better podcaster. Shout out Sweetfish, producer of this podcast. So yeah, those are just 2 examples of nurture emails that I think do a really good job of the being educated. And I'm going to stop talking and see what you think.
Something I think is interesting is that I think a lot of the value of these emails happens outside of the email.
What do you mean?
Before I even open it, I need to know who you are and what your brand is like. For example, the only nurture emails I read are from Gong because I've consumed a lot of Gong's LinkedIn content and seen it on Twitter and stuff and just talked to people from that company. So I know that they focus on data and they focus on humor. That's their brand. So that when I open up one of their emails, it's going to be worthwhile. The issue is when I see the banner on a nurture email, you know what I mean? The sides are cut differently than a normal email. It's marketing. I immediately just archive it unless I know the company and I either use it or I trust their brand or like what they do.
So nurture emails are emails that you've signed up for, though, assuming that the company did things legit.
I don't think I've ever got a nurture email from something I've actually actively signed up for.
For
it's
real?
Usually from an accident.
Gong's emails.
I don't even know how I got on that list. I don't think I've ever intentionally said, yes, please send me emails. It's always a trick somewhere where there's a box you didn't check or something and you get tricked into a list, or you respond to some email and you get put on the list because in the fine print it says, by responding, you're accepting X, Y, and Z. Nobody intentionally gets on those lists. So you're going to end up on it one way or another. And you're going to really decide whether or not it's worthwhile before you even open it, I think.
Some of the subject lines from the Zubtitle emails, going back to Zubtitle again, how to market your business on LinkedIn stories, how to develop a loyal following on YouTube, how to create tip videos on Instagram Reels, how to optimize your videos for LinkedIn stories, how to edit videos for social media. I love it. There's a lot of how-to stuff in there. And when you actually click the email, it will link you to a blog and just let's see, I'm gonna open up one now. So how to optimize your videos for LinkedIn stories. And it's a pretty text heavy email, but like you can read the full blog post and then there's some other stuff. You can go log into it. But again, I got nurtured by Subtitles emails for probably 3 months after starting a free trial and was just like, okay, they provide value. They understand what I'm trying to do. And I looked at other tools, but I ended up going with Subtitle because of how helpful these nurture emails were. And now PandaDoc uses Subtitle. So
I didn't even know we did.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. I used to use those for my LinkedIn videos. Yeah. They're super useful. Like you said, I've tried so many other tools and just trash. Sorry to all you other people.
Trash tools. All right, let's jump to Florin's LinkedIn post. And for those of you that are not watching it and are just listening it, Patrick, do you want to walk us through Florin's LinkedIn post?
Yeah, Florin's actually a PandaDoc customer. I sold Florin when I was an AE. So shouts out to Florin. Thanks for still using PandaDoc.
Shouts out to you for selling it successfully.
Yeah, it was a whole mess. I didn't do a very good job, actually. Sorry about that, Florin. But anyway, going back to his content, he's talking about some key things about sales sequences or cadences. So usually when people say that, it's like the automation behind it. But it can also include frequency of calls and LinkedIn steps. Travis, are you familiar with like a sales sequence?
Mm-hmm. I've built them before.
What is your understanding of how they should run from like a basic level?
So there should be multiple touch points from different channels. So you might start out with a call and then do a follow-up email and then hit them up on LinkedIn, and then you have like specific number of days between those steps, and yeah, your messaging will change over time as you have so many number of hits before like you give up on that person and move on.
How many days do you usually do it for, and like how many steps per day typically? In the
play, so we called them plays. You're calling them sequences, but I want to say I want to remember there was like a magic number of like 9 touches before we gave up.
Yeah, 9's generally accepted, especially for like inbound. Outbound, some people go up to like 50, just because you don't want to give up, just in case the person's just not getting your content. We're going to talk about resolution later. But something that I want to touch on was he's talking about combo prospecting, which is having certain days and oftentimes many days where you do multiple kinds of touch points on that day.
Give me an example.
First day, I call you, I leave a voicemail, I send you a LinkedIn message, and I send you an email. That's
a lot.
Right? That's called the combo, right? So you hit them with 4 notifications. They're going to get a notification on their cell that you called, a notification on their cell for the voicemail, another notification on their cell for the LinkedIn, and probably another one for the email, depending on the way their inbox is set up. The funny thing there is like you cannot ignore that. Like if I open up my phone and I see Travis Tyler 4 times, I might be angry.
I will be angry.
Potentially, yeah. But I'm going to respond, most likely. Compared to if you just left me a voicemail that I'm just going to auto-delete, because I have no other frame of reference for who you are.
That's true.
When you have 4 touch points, one of them is more likely to actually be consumed in a whole way, because usually sales touches are just consumed and forgotten, or they're not even finished. I read the first sentence, I listen to the first 10 seconds, delete. This way you have a higher chance of actually having one of them land. We also talked about them referencing each other, right?
Yes. In the last episode, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
Where, let's say you are, we talked about how I don't go on LinkedIn to actively buy tools. Like if Subtitle had hit me up trying to prospect me on LinkedIn, I mean, I probably wouldn't have bought the tool. I think most of us buy stuff in a similar way, right? Like we ask those that I bought Subtitle because I asked you, what's a good tool? I've seen you use captions and subtitles on your videos. So I went to a trusted source. You made a recommend. Yeah. Yikes.
I was going to say, bad move right away.
And I went and looked at their competitors. I looked at the reviews, and then I did a free trial of the product. That was like my journey. And then they nurtured me, but not with like 4 touch points in a single day.
Mm-hmm.
They nurtured me gently and slowly.
And I'd say I don't recommend this for somebody that's like an inbound rep to do. I would recommend it on cold outreach because the chances of you being ignored is always there. But for outbound, it's super, 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 super occasional. It's a weird way to put it.
So the comboing
it happens constantly.
The comboing is better for outbound.
Yes.
Gotcha. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, because they've never seen your company's name before, most likely.
Yeah, and you're not necessarily scaring them away
No.
because, like you said, they've never heard of you.
There's always a chance that whatever you do in outbound will make someone angry because it's an unsolicited message. And I believe if you don't make anybody angry with your messaging on outbound, you're probably being too safe.
Whoa, controversial statement.
Yeah, you probably are going to book way less and less quality than anybody else because you're afraid that people are going to see you a certain way. That doesn't mean that you should like grab someone by the neck and scream in their face, but you should try things that other people aren't. The reason you're not getting responses is because everything you do is the same as every other person that's reaching out.
And that's what we've talked about in the first 2 episodes. If you guys didn't get a chance to listen to with our guests, our CEO, Makita, he told us about something that caught his attention that he hadn't seen before was somebody sending him a recorded video of that guy holding a giant panda and basically puppeteering this panda. And it got a laugh out of Makita and it got him to notice him and he actually responded. And then in episode 2, we talked to Adam, and Adam told us about how an applicant for a job Venmo'd a VP for a $50,000 Venmo request. Something like if you saw somebody requesting $50,000 from you, it would catch your attention. And that's what the show is all about, right? It's like, I like that. If you're not making at least somebody angry, you might be playing it too safe.
Yeah, and it's a pseudoscience, but when you look at like the idea of like pattern interrupting, and I think it's called NLP, like the neuro-linguistic programming thing. It's not a real science, but like anecdotally, when you do things that are out of the norm, people pay attention.
When are you, I guess like when I think about that, I immediately want to be like, from a marketing mindset, then like, it's a fine line between being clickbaity and hitting the mark and getting noticed.
Yeah, and we talked about it last episode where I said it doesn't really matter what you do as much as how you do it. So like the pattern interrupt as a concept is, I think, pretty sound, but it depends on how you execute the pattern interrupt that makes it powerful or not. And I think that's where it separates like a really good salesperson from an average one, is somebody that goes, oh, Patrick said that I should do X, Y, and Z, and they just copy it and do it soullessly. Or if they're like very creative and find a way to incorporate their brand or personalize it in a way or put their personality into it in a way that really lands with the persona, that's when it works.
I'm going to pat myself on the back with how I invite our guests onto the show.
Dude, it is impressive. It's really cool, especially the last one with Will, who y'all are going to see shortly.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
What I try to do, the whole podcast is customer engagement lab, where I'm trying to find out about unique ways to engage people through digital communication. So I was like, then we need to invite our guests on in a way that's unique. So I record like a 2-minute video on my iPhone, and I am begging the person to come be a guest on our show. And while I'm doing that, I'm sketching their profile picture from LinkedIn. And then I do a terrible drawing and I share it with them. So you guys can steal it. You can try it. Let me know if it works, if you're trying to get someone's attention, and have fun with it. Okay. What's next, my man?
Well, one more thing I want to talk about on Florin's post. Okay. I'm just going to read his 4th bullet point to you, and I just want to hear your reaction.
Okay.
Open and reply rates typically drop off after the first few emails because most sequences get less aggressive as the days go on. Flip this around. Have more frequent touch points towards the end. We've increased our reply rate on steps 15 to 18 from 0.5% to 5% by doing this. So what he's saying is typically the first 5 days you have like a touch on every day. And then as the sequence goes on, it's like once every 4 days. But he's saying flip that around, maybe have more gaps in the beginning, and then at the end every day.
I really like that. And it's my natural inclination when I've built sequences and like plays in the past where you're right. I was like, well, if they haven't responded, then maybe I should just slow down. And it's actually, I like that. Flip that on its head and attack them more towards the end to really find out if this is going to be a go or a no-go. That's the idea, right?
Yeah, the idea is that you tend to get ignored more as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting ignored more, it's harder to get ignored if you're just like spamming them kind of at the end. So you're at least going to get a no, and sometimes a no is even more important than a yes because you can change your focus. Because think about it this way, you don't just go after a contact once, right? As an SDR, I'm going to put that person in a sequence again. And if I'm doing that time after time, they might just never respond. But if I get that response on the first sequence, because I was more aggressive at the end of the first sequence, I'm never going to put them in again and waste my time running steps on someone that's not interested.
And I guess the worst that can happen that I've seen come, if I'm bringing this back to nurture emails, is people will literally just say like, screw you, F off, take me off your list.
Yeah, and if you're in sales, you've heard that a million times, so it's not that big of a deal.
So the best case scenario is you actually get somebody's attention after they've been ignoring you for a while. Worst case scenario, they tell you to screw off.
Yeah, and a lot of sales gurus will tell you the sale starts with a no. Because if you can get someone to tell you no and then tell you why it's a no, then you might find like a misunderstanding or a place where you can actually find alignment, and that's when you actually start selling. So getting the no can actually sometimes be super powerful.
No is better than maybe.
Yes, or no response. No response will kill you.
Dang. Is that how your Tinder game goes with ghosting?
I don't want to talk about it. It was a bad week for Patty on Tinder. Getting pretty aggressive with the sequences for Valentine's Day. I'm telling you. There's no rhyme or reason, just every day.
Patty D does not follow the same rules of engagement in sales as he does in his dating life. For the record, no always means no for Patty D.
Quick tip for anyone doing the dating prospecting. I make custom playlists for everybody that I match with. That's been the most effective way.
You make a Spotify music playlist?
Yeah.
And then you send it to them?
Yep. My first message is, hey, in 2 or 3 sentences, what is your taste in music? And then I take that and I make them a playlist and then customize the title so they know I
knew
did
there
it for
was
them.
a reason I really liked you.
I'm glad it took you this long. We've known each other for like a year.
I knew it, but now I embrace it because I would make playlists for people that I liked. Some people I was like interested in dating, and some it was just like friends or family. But I would do mix CDs back when I would like burn CDs.
Analog.
Yeah, man.
Wow. It's impressive.
So this is like when you used to make mixtapes or mix CDs, and now you're making like a mix playlist for people that you want to. And people really like that because that stands out.
It's
You have to take
personalized.
time. It's personalized to curate that music for them, and you're really thoughtful in the process.
Things are bad out there, man, because most of the women I talk to then say, do you just send this to everybody, like the same playlist? Which actually hurts because I'm like, no, I just spent an hour on this.
You know what I would love to see is your Spotify library and all the different.
There's so many. Dude. Next episode, you get a sneak peek into the thousands of playlists that I have in my library.
And I watched Patrick eat his boogers, and then I said, bro, what are you doing? That's disgusting.
And I said, I'm on a new diet.
And then he winked at me and said, they're sometimes a little salty. Depends where I've been. Hey, Will. Welcome to the podcast, man.
What's up, William?
Yeah, it's great to be here, guys. I appreciate it, and appreciate you guys putting up with all this Wi-Fi drama.
It is so good to have you on the show. This is attempt number 2 at having a call with Will Allred, who is the co-founder of Lavender. I'm here with my co-host, Patrick Booger Eater Downs.
That's me.
And I am also your co-host, Travis Tyler.
Yep, it's my co-host, Travis Tyler. He's never eaten a booger in his life. He's perfect, apparently.
Man, come on. I flicked mine on the wall. But we're here. We're excited to talk about you, Will, to talk about your stance on boogers and to talk more about emails, because that's really what we're here for. You are the email expert. You are the co-founder of Lavender. For all of you that are listening or watching the show, we will have a link to Lavender in this episode, so you can go check it out in the show notes.
So we might want to start the conversation around, like, what is Lavender? And then we can dive into some like live examples of emails. That might be a good place to take this.
That sounds perfect.
What is lavender?
Sure. Lavender is a Chrome extension that helps you write better emails and do it faster. So it's based off three main pillars. The first being a writing assistant, which is what we're most known for. But we also combine that with recipient research as well as an array of productivity tools. And the thinking here is, we don't want to just be, a verticalized Grammarly. We don't want to be just another extension that provides information on an email. We want to be all of the things that you need to do in order to send better emails in a faster manner.
I mean, that sounds awesome. It sounds ideal. I know Patrick's used Lavender before. Big fan of it.
Huge fan. I mostly just use it because it makes me feel good about myself. Because it tells you how good your email is. Like every time I write an email, it's like, hey, and I'm just like, you are good. And it just makes me feel awesome. Thank you for that, Will.
The fact that you're getting A's, man, that's awesome. You're a killer email writer.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Can't see it, but I'm blushing pretty hard, man.
A lot of what's on that we see out there, whether it's the latest ebook or the latest big report that's been done about the most effective emails. There's all this stuff out there, but what are you thinking, Will, as like that you want to share as like the most important takeaways for folks that are focusing on improving their email?
Yeah, so there's a few things that we can dive into. I know you guys sent over some example emails beforehand, so I'm excited to dig into those. But I think the main pieces that we kind of forget about when it comes to writing a good email is first things first, complexity. Complexity is like a big challenge that we see across majority of our emails. 70% of the emails that we see written in our platform start at about a 10th grade reading level. And the examples you provided actually are fantastic for that. So we can dig into that in a little bit. But the ideal email complexity level, the reading level for that writing is a 5th grade reading level. If you want to get a reply, what we tend to see is over a 10th grade reading level is 70% of the time. And so, this level of complexity that we're providing to people in their inbox, I don't know about you, but when it comes to how I use email, I'm trying to triage, get through information quickly. I'm usually on my phone when I'm reading. In fact, the data shows that you're 8 times more likely to read that email the first time on your phone.
With that information, it almost makes me think that you should be that's a crazy statistic, like, to think about too. Like, I am reading a majority of my emails on my phone, and we've all gotten that email that we instantly open and we're like, oh hell no. Like,
archive.
I am not reading all of that. So maybe like this is oversimplification, but perhaps it's when you're sending out an email, think about writing it how you'd write a text message. You wouldn't write a gigantic text message with the intention of like somebody replying, like, unless you're crazy and insane.
Yeah,
like
we communicate.
One of your ex-girlfriends or something, but yeah.
We could talk about that later. the ex-girlfriend cast after dark.
So length is definitely a part of it. The other piece that you want to look at is the formatting. So people under-optimize around the white space. And so what you tend to see is like these big blocks of copy, particularly with the complexity of the writing. So you tend to have these longer words that'll take up a longer stretch of space within that mobile look. One of the functions that we have in our platform is a mobile preview where you can edit that email and fix the white spaces, do all that stuff. So looking at how it's going to look to that person when you make that first impression, because in reality, how their brain works is they're going to give it a quick skim, and the visual aspect of that email is just as important, if not more important, than the actual content of the email itself. Some of the things that we're starting to get into researching is like, what's the variation of word length within sentences and how it makes up paragraphs and how those paragraphs visually space out within the total screen space available. You really want to maximize that white space.
Dude, that's crazy to think about. And that's, I think, something that marketers are more attuned to, no offense, total offense, than salespeople, right? Like, we think about the visual presentation of something and how digestible information is going to be. And a lot of times, a salesperson unknowingly is just trying to cram as much useful information into something as possible, right? Like, and they're we're both after the same goal. But what I was saying earlier when I was shitting on salespeople is basically like you guys do a pretty crappy job of leveraging white space.
What do you mean?
You need to have more white space. Like a lot of the sales emails that I've been
chunks.
reviewing, it's just a big old chunk of text. Ain't nobody gonna read that, dude.
What if it's really short?
Ooh, choppy? That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still, that's what Will's saying is like you need to think about like the overall presentation of how that looks. And you're good about this in your aspects about like having like little one-liners and things like that and having extra spaces in between kind of the blocks of text.
It comes back to, as a seller, you're 3 times more likely to send that email from your computer. And so you might think it looks good. You might think you have the white space right. And we can actually go through some examples of that in a bit. But, what happens is that screen truncates. And when it gets smaller and narrower, what happens is the thing that you thought was, oh, that's just 2 lines, like very simple, easy copy to understand. All of a sudden, it becomes this overwhelming, cumbersome paragraph that I might not take the chance to read because my first impression of it is, oh, that's a lot. I'm not going to worry about that. And then I'll like swipe it to the side and come back to it later, which means I never come back to it.
I feel like Will needs to come teach an email class with you.
I'm down for that.
Do like a PandaDoc training and have like Will come in and be like, here is what you guys are forgetting about, and here's what you need to be thinking about, because that's so true what he said. Like, you're writing on a laptop, but they're not opening on a laptop, so it may look okay on the laptop in Gmail when they're writing it, or SalesLoft, or wherever they're using it, but then when the viewer's opening, it's a completely different experience.
Well, I assume this is aggravated even more by the fact that everyone's using sequencers that don't even, like, the emails don't even get written in Gmail. That they get written into, like, SalesLoft or Outreach or something.
Yeah, when we built our integration into SalesLoft and Outreach, personally, I can tell you, I had never seen their platform before until we signed up to be partners with them. And I was surprised to see that there wasn't a mobile preview function in there, like other marketing technology tools. Marketing tech is more my background, and so I was surprised to see it. And so we're happy to be able to provide that in via our integration. So, as you're typing out your template or as you're typing out that, fourth email through your Cadence tool today, like you'll be able to see exactly how it looks on mobile.
I have that feature right now. I didn't even know. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, most marketing email software has the mobile preview.
Yeah, SalesLoft does not. So even when you want to preview it, you have to send it to Gmail. Damn. And then it just sends you an email. You can't even see it inside the tool.
Cool, now we're shitting on SalesLoft.
Sorry, SalesLoft. You're good regardless.
Hey, I think to that point, I mean, when we figured who we were going to partner with in the sales enablement space, SalesLoft, Outreach have built fantastic technology tools. One of my favorite parts about what they do is they don't let you just hit send without actually being mindful of who you're sending it to, the information about that person, and actually setting up a workflow that encourages you to be mindful of what you're sending to that particular person. So many of the tools out there are just click send and it sends out like 500 emails. But yeah, that leads you to spray and praying and honestly ending up within the spam inbox. And what they do that I think is fantastic is every single email that goes out, you've got to review it with their personal information next to you before you hit send. And I think that's a brilliant workflow, and we're pretty excited to be a part of it.
I like it. Can we jump into taking a look at our top selling account executives' emails and having you kind of review those and see where maybe he could adjust them?
Yeah, let's do it. So Let's start. Let's start here. Hey George, per my voicemail, I have a product relevant to your work on the sales team. We helped Mercury ISS save 10 plus hours a week and increase revenue by 50%. They were wasting hours. I would tediously create Microsoft Word docs and then manually transfer customer data from Salesforce CRM into the document. It's what their CEO said. When's good for a call? Thanks, Luke. So the first thing I want to do with this email is I'm going to open up mobile preview and I'm going to show you how it looks on a phone.
It's a little daunting. Big block of text right away.
That's crazy. Like, to see how long it looks, that doesn't look like a long amount of text on desktop.
It doesn't
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and if you think about this email, it's 67 words. That's not a long email. It looks very long on mobile. The other piece to this email is, if you look in here, this is basically two sentences, but they're very long sentences that we could probably break up into smaller thoughts. So first things first, though, I want to talk about this per my voicemail bit. I personally, I think leading with these things in the preview text, what you're hoping for is they see that you're connecting the dots between one channel and another channel. I think that can be very useful. Instead of leaving it down here, though, I might say voicemail follow-up, and then delete it down here. So that would be like the first thing that I would edit, is I would move it out of the text because you want them to see that you're following up from another channel. We know that using multiple channels works really well, but we don't necessarily want it to take up space in that preview where we could be saying something highly valuable. The second thing I want to dig into here, this sentence is very assumptive. I have a product relevant to your work on the sales team. And yeah, this is more my personal feel around email is like, this is, I'd rather you don't tell me what it is. I'd rather you show me. And you do some of that later on. I'm not sure the best way to get it across is through Mercury ISS save 10 plus hours a week and increase revenue by 50%. So, and then tediously create Word docs, manually transfer. I think this stuff is interesting, right? And one of the things that I want to touch on in particular is the nature of what it is that PandaDoc does. So e-signatures are it's not a new concept. Would you say I'm wrong in that, or? Right. So like most buyers have a notion of what an e-signature is. But I know what you guys do is special. We use your product. I think our trial actually runs up today. And there's differentiators. All right, we can do that after I go through this email. You have to send me an email and I can show you how I think about it. So there's a few things here that I'm just thinking on from the way this is done. Like, so I've just adjusted some formatting things, which make it look a lot cleaner on mobile. But this notion of how the product is perceived by someone else. So like if I already know what e-signature tools are, and I have a sense for what that is, and you come in and you say, I know I can save you time. I've got this function that's fantastic. It might be better off to start with something like, hey, George, what are you using for e-signatures? And you can sort of prompt them up to give you either we don't use something, in which case you can now go into a conversation about the value you provide with an e-signature tool, or you can get into a differentiation conversation around what you do differently. And for this email, um, I would start with the differentiation, because if they don't use one, they've probably heard of one. And so you can now set the conversation around your particular value prop. And so just from this email, one of the things that I'm picking up is I would tediously create Microsoft Word docs, manually transfer customer data from the Salesforce CRM into the document. That's what their CEO said. So ideally, you've targeted this email to somebody who uses Salesforce, right? And so for this email, you might want to use that as the initial differentiation point. So what are you using for e-signatures? And you can play with this kind of thing. So reason I ask, or just say it straight up.
So let's take a look at what you have done here.
And Will, I love sales emails, so I'm getting chills, man.
Dude, this is so much fucking better.
It's so
good.
It's really good.
I think Luke's gonna like it. He's gonna be like, damn.
He's gonna love it.
Or he's gonna be like, fuck you guys.
He already uses lavender. So.
Good. Hey, and this is something I always tell our users, like A/B test this stuff against whatever it is that you're using, right? Like I don't assume that I'm right. I just take it from the perspective of somebody who's on the other side of the table very often. And so, my perspective from this is like, how can you create a narrative that flows from top to bottom in a way that's really easy to grasp, and I can then reply back really simply.
Damn.
I mean, yeah, this is almost a marketing email in a way, because it's like relevancy, here's a case study, here's how we helped. It's like you're almost being forced into an inbound funnel by the email.
Is that good or bad?
It's a good thing, yeah.
Okay.
Because like if you reach out to somebody and they're completely cold, and within 4 paragraphs you can make them a warm lead, that's ideal. But like Will said, most people try to just like push them onto the phone or into a meeting before you even know if it's relevant to them.
I hate getting pushed onto the phone.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. It's weird.
So that took us a little over 10 minutes to do, and you've now taken 33 seconds out of this person's day, but you've done it in a way that's pretty thoughtful. That's honestly the idea behind our product. But
dude, that was sick. Thank you so much for like doing that. I am serious. I'm not part of the sales training team at PandaDoc, but I'm serious when my marketing team could probably use a training from Will of how to write better emails, because we're writing emails constantly for customers, for prospects, for partners. And what we talk about on the show is like, this is the opinions cast. Everyone has their own opinion of what works best. Well, this is a tool that's actually using a lot of data. Lavender's using so many different sources of data, from the what reading level it's at, how long it takes somebody to read it. What were the other factors it's taking into consideration to give you your grade?
So the factors that correlate back to a score, we're looking at word count, question count, the clarity level, your subject line, and we're actually about to release a bunch of cool stuff around subject line. So if like your subject's messed up in any way, shape, or form, we'll highlight it here, and there'll be a drop down of everything from how to use punctuation to using the title case.
Anything else while we have Sir William Allred?
So one thing I did want to touch on here before you guys let me go is scheduling, because this is one of those things that tends to be controversial with folks. I personally do not care if you send me a calendar link. I'm like, you made my life so much easier. I've looked at some data across people using the link in its raw text format versus hyperlinking where the text is. The data has shown me that hyperlinking the text itself gets more click-through. So just something to think about as you craft these emails. But I put these into like 3 categories. And this one's in the like, don't do it, not because you know, you like it this way and like you don't care if the other person cares. It's more about like you might find the 30% of people that hate when somebody like does this power move to them. And so instead of getting into this world, if you're like dead set on just like sending them a calendar link, try it this way. So it says like, do you have a calendar link I can use? We can also use mine. That sort of puts a push on them to like, no, I want you to use my calendar link. So like it negates that power play, but you're like, here's mine, just because in reality what they're going to do is just click yours. But you've negated the conversation around, is it a power play? I was on a podcast with Jason Bay when we got into this, because I was using this technique. And he came back to me with, funny enough, I've done hundreds of tests using different combinations of how to send a calendar link. This is the best thing to do. So somebody replies back to your, let's jump on the phone email, and you say, fantastic, I've included some times below. Literally look at your calendar for 15 seconds, find 3 blank spaces, and put some ranges in there. Make sure you got the EST versus PST, whatever it is. Try to use whatever theirs is, not necessarily yours. And just exactly, don't count on them to calculate the time zone difference. And then if those don't work, happy to use your link, but feel free to use mine. And that gives them all 3 options. You've negated any chance of them like getting into a power struggle, but you've also shown the individual that you are eager to schedule time with them, and you put the effort in to get the time scheduled. And so it like stands out against other ways of trying to schedule time.
Dude, I love that. I love that.
Too.
I've always wondered about this exact scenario, because even in marketing, I'm booking shit with people all the time. Will, I had to book time with you, right? Like I'm booking time with podcast guests. I'm booking time with partners I'm doing webinars with.
If we just want to keep shilling for people, Chili Piper has this really cool feature where you could do exactly this, but if you click on the time, it just books the meeting.
Damn.
And then there's a little link underneath it that's like, don't see a time that works for you? Click here, and it just does it automatically.
Maybe one day we'll just get a hodgepodge of all of our favorite people from these awesome companies. Chili Piper.
Put them in a room together.
Lavender, PandaDoc.
Lock the door. Run away.
Okay, that turned creepy really fast.
It's kind of on brand for me, though, so it makes sense. Well, we're starting to go insane sitting here in this room. So is there anything you want to say to the captive audience before we leave you today?
If I could say anything, it would be keep your emails stupid simple. As you saw here, that was just like big hodgepodge of words, and there's too much for a lot of people to grasp at a quick glance, especially when you rethink about how people are going through their inbox and you realize that you're fighting someone's triage and they're looking for the easiest way to dismiss what you've sent them as quickly as possible. They're looking to categorize it, right? And so when we talk about like adding value in email, like this notion of I've put together like this super complex, hard to read block of text, my immediate triage is, okay, I'm not interested. Like, let's move on. So that would be my one bit of advice for your audience. Oh, and optimize for mobile.
I love it. I love it.
That was my big takeaway. I didn't know you could do that in Lavender. I'm going to do that all day tomorrow.
Optimize for mobile, baby.
Yeah, it's incredible. Thank you, William.
William, thank you so much.
I'll see you later. All right.
Thanks for hanging out with us today on the Customer Engagement Lab. For more of Travis and Patrick's chaotic energy, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you would make our hearts smile if you left a super quick rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the show deserves. It'll take you 2 seconds, I promise. Until next time.